be official. Thank you, Alex. Good morning. Thanks for those of y'all who've made it here today. We have a large contingent that's gone downtown for the Atlanta Pride Parade today. So keep them in your thoughts and wishes as they go down and help celebrate a very important event in our community and on a gorgeous fall day. So my name is David Krober. I am a member of this congregation, and I'm your worship associate for today. On behalf of Shelley Negrani, who will be speaking for us today, our music director, Alex Peach, and our fantastic tech team in the back that makes our live stream possible, I'd like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North congregation, which we lovingly call UUMAN. We are a liberal faith community with a mission to nurture our spirit, strive for justice, and transform the world. Many of us come to UUMAN because here we have the opportunity to engage in an open-minded and compassionate search for truth and purpose, being mindful of the love we hold for one another and for the world in which we live. If there are any of you visiting today and you feel comfortable doing so, please stand and introduce yourself so that we can share in community and worship together. Anybody visiting over here on the left? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Soledad Azuri, and I drove down here all the way from Sugar Hill, Georgia, just to check you guys out. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, welcome.
I'm from New York, so you have to.
Welcome, Celeste. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Good. Welcome, Joseph. Yeah. Miss him? Oh, yes. Good morning.
Charlotte Allier, my husband Fred Allier. We live in Alpharetta, we're originally from Wisconsin, and I was born Unitarian near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and so he's here now.
Hey. Yeah. Well, welcome, Charlotte. And your husband's name was, I'm sorry? Your husband's name? Fred. Okay. Nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you. So no matter who you are, who you love, or where you are in your spiritual journey, you're welcome here. And everyone is invited to join us for coffee and conversation after the service. So just a couple of quick announcements. Our Board of Trustees uses the COVID Act Now website to monitor the COVID risk levels in our community, and we're currently in a low-risk category. We'll continue to keep an eye on that, but masks are optional for indoor activities. And we'll keep you updated if that changes. I know there may be a surge coming this fall. Hopefully you saw the message from Lexi, our Director of Religious Exploration. She and a number of our youth are down at the Atlanta Pride Parade, and so we will not have the multi-gen youth activity after the service today. We've got two adult RE sessions at 11:15 today. Jennifer is going to be hosting a session on issues in Unitarian Universalism, so talking about some of the proposed bylaw changes that will be considered by the UU General Assembly, and that'll be at 11:15 in the minister's office, which if you go through the fellowship hall, it is the small room on the front of the building. And then I'll be hosting a service reflection at 11:15, and we'll probably just grab some chairs and sit in the fellowship hall. And it's an opportunity to share how you experienced today's service and message and just get a little discussion going. So welcome all to either of those events. And just a reminder for everybody, the Breeze system, which we've begun using as a congregation, has a full list of upcoming events, and encourage you all to periodically check Breeze and see what's coming up. If you need help with Breeze, please talk to me or one of our greeters in the lobby, and we can make sure that you're signed up. I also was told we might have a drone hovering around today. If so, don't be alarmed. The company Creative Solar that installed our solar panels on our roof is shooting some footage that they may use in promotional activities. So if you see a drone hovering, it's not Google spying on you or anything like that. One last announcement, please be sure to register for the Under the Harvest Moon auction. There is a QR code in your program today, which you can use your phone to register. If anybody is baffled by what a QR code is and what to do with it, please see me or, again, one of our greeters, and we'll help you with that. So let's now begin our worship with the lighting of the chalice. And Shelley, would you mind doing that? We have a reading in unison here. In igniting this chalice, we cast upon it our hopes and intentions for all that is positive in our minds and in our hearts, May this precious light shine on. And now we're going to do hymn 170, which is in the gray hardback book. So now is the time in our service when the love that binds us together is spoken aloud. Within the loving community of this congregation, we take time to share with one another our joys and sorrows. If you are so moved, please feel free to come forward, drop a pebble in the bowl, and express a joy or sorrow that you may have. And if you're attending via the live stream, you may place a joy or sorrow in the chat. Thanks.
Hey there, I'm Jim Nickens, a member of this congregation. My sister called yesterday. She's having surgery on Wednesday. I'm not comfortable sharing the details, but please keep her in your thoughts, and I hope to have good news to report next week.
My name is Bob Pop, and I have two joys today. The first is Rosie and I went on a trip the last couple weeks, and I got to see three of my aunts, all in their 90s, one who's 99, and she looks like she's about 80 years old. She's unbelievable. And I hope I have some genetic connection there with her. But while on our trip, one of my cousins shared with me a bag of 8mm film that my grandfather took back in the 40s and 50s. And I don't know why she finally got around to giving it to me, but I started digitizing some of them, and it's amazing what's in there. So that's my first joy. Second joy was about 7 of us went out on the Chattahoochee River yesterday, and it was a gorgeous day to be on the river. We're a little sore today, but it was very joyful. So 2 pebbles.
So I'm Rosie Pop, and I have 2 concerns. First, my aunt in California died a few weeks ago, and she was a lovely person. She is the last of that generation, so it was really sad. And she was so far away, we kept intending to go and see her one more time. I saw her about 5 years ago, but it was just so far. And she passed away, and her daughters were with her. So that's one concern. My second concern is one of our members, Lawton Etheridge, has been in an automobile accident yesterday. I don't know the details. I know he did not go to the hospital. I assume that means he wasn't injured very badly, but knowing Lawton, that isn't necessarily true. So anyway, keep Lawton and Linda in your thoughts. That's why Linda is not here today, to help greet, and hopefully it'll be something minor.
So again, I'm David Krober. Last week I shared that my daughter was in labor, and so I want to let you know that my granddaughter, Odessa Mazul, was born on Sunday afternoon. So I am new to the grandparent club. And then a final pebble for those joys and sorrows that have been expressed in our chat, as well as for those that are too tender to be spoken aloud. So please keep one another in your thoughts this week. Thank you. Franciscan friar, writer, and speaker Richard Rohr introduced me to the term liminal space some time ago. Liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold or a doorway or an entrance point. He defines liminal space as an inner state and sometimes an outer situation where we can begin to think and act in new ways. It is where we are in between, having left one room or a stage of life, but not yet entered the next. We usually enter liminal space when our former way of being is challenged or changed. Perhaps when we lose a job or a loved one, during illness, at the birth of a child, or a major relocation. It's a graced time, but often does not feel graced in any way. In such space, we are not certain or in control. Liminal space can be extremely uncomfortable. We feel both the urge to rush forward into the future as well as the tug of inertia pulling us back into the past and the comfort of the status quo. But the very vulnerability and openness of liminal space allows room for something genuinely new to happen. It's where we are most teachable, often because it's where we are the most humbled. It's where the work of authentic spirituality and development can take place. It invites us to discover and live from a broader perspective and with much deeper seeing. So my reminder to myself as I stand on a threshold with some major transitions taking place in my life is to linger here and stay in the now, to be patient, aware, compassionate, both with myself and with others, to allow this moment to teach me, to just experience it, to allow things to be without any futile attempts to control them, which is my natural tendency. I'm holding on to this prayer from Richard Rohr that we use in our centering group that meets here at UUMAN on Saturdays. And I personalized this, taking it out of the collective third person and making it for me. Let me be present to the now. It's all I have, and it's where God will always speak to me. The now holds everything and therefore can receive God too. Help me to be present to the place I am most afraid of, because it always feels empty. It always feels boring. It always feels like it is not enough. Help me to find some space within that I don't try to fill with ideas or opinions. Help me to find space so you, loving guide, can show yourself in that place where I am hungry and empty. Keep me out of the way so that there is always enough room for you. Thanks. And your program says that our speaker today is Maria Soledad Azuri, but we have a wonderful substitute instead, our own Shelley Negrani, who is going to give us a message today. So welcome, Shelley.
Before I begin, I forgot to give Dave an announcement. After the service today, there'll be a woman, Erica Barnes, from the NAACP of North Fulton. She's going to be checking to make sure that you're registered to vote. So she has a way to do that. And even though we think we're registered, we might just want to make absolutely sure. So she'll be right outside after the service. The celebration of Halloween has its roots in the festival of Samhain, celebrated at the time of year when dusk and dark or life and death become blurred. Samhain was held when the boundaries between the world of the living and the world of the dead became thinner, allowing spirits and other supernatural entities to pass between the worlds to socialize with humans. During the festival, on the actual night of Samhain, some villagers wore costumes. Samhain being held at a time when boundaries were less clear, wearing costumes and masks may have been a way for revelers to safely cross between the worlds they inhabited into another, more mystical world to become spirits themselves. Could I get some water? Thank you. Costumes and masks continue to offer us a way to be someone or something completely other than who we are. At the end, this was actually written before, and I brought it in, so it has things in it that don't apply, and I'm going to try to skip those because I missed them. Okay. So often, usually on Halloween or around that time, the children do a parade in their costumes in our service. They lead us in a parade out of the sanctuary and into the other world, which we call Fellowship Hall. No one will ask those children, "Who are you pretending to be?" We will ask, "Who are you?" Thank you so much. The community will relate to the costume wearer as witch, dinosaur, superhero, or princess. Several years ago, I took a class on African religion. To help me meet a special requirement, the professor assigned me the task of writing a 20-page paper exploring Western psychology and traditional African religion. This assignment was one of the components that came together at that time to change my life. As I studied, I understood that objectivity, an essential ingredient of Western psychology, is a made-up construct. Objectivity requires that the observer and the observed be separate entities. That is problematic, if not impossible, because we all function primarily on a community or interactive level. It is our connection to and relationship with each other that defines us. A simplistic example is the way we relate to children in Halloween costumes. Mary, donning a costume, becomes a lion. She roars and shows her claws. An adult might pretend to be afraid or admire how strong she is, becoming part of Mary's lion performance. An adult might also say, "What a nice costume, it fits you so well. Did your parents make it for you?" But how could Mary be a lion if we relate to her as a girl in a lion costume, as opposed to as a lion? In some traditional African religious practices, the person who wears a ritual mask conceptually loses his or her human identity and turns into the entity represented by the mask itself. This transformation of the mask, wearer usually relies on activities of others, chanting, music, or dance, which are performed by their community. The mask wearer may become a medium that allows for a dialogue between the community and the spirits of ancestors. The mask wearer may become an animal and allow the community to ask directly for a bountiful hunt and express gratitude to the hunted. I believe that one can draw parallels between those rituals and our development as human beings. We decide that we wish to develop in some way, a better mother, a closer friend, more generous, a more loving spouse. We find ways that we can act kinder, more loving, etc., and then we do those things. We don the mask and act the part. We perform beyond the person we are. Performing is a way of taking who we are and creating something new through incorporating who we wish to become. With our performance, we change who we are and we change the environment in which we perform. A new environment is created, shaped, and reshaped as an inseparable part of people developing. As we do, the people around us relate to us as the mask we are wearing. As with African ritual transformation, it is the interaction with the people around us that gives our performance meaning. For example, as we perform more loving spouse, our spouse is most likely to respond as someone who feels loved. We develop as a more loving spouse supported by our partner who is relating to us as a more loving spouse. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to revert to a 10-year-old child when you get around your birth family? Suddenly you are the brat that you were 20 or 50 years ago. That's what happened to me whenever I was around my father. I am a confident and capable woman, but 30 minutes in his presence and I transformed into someone needy and defiant and unpleasant. Like most of us, I was trained to believe that 10-year-old was the real me. We have all heard about peeling layers of the onion to find the real person inside. We also know about silk purses and sow's ears. But actually, I am living proof that you can make one from the other, having been a sow's ear at times in my life. I've been an alcoholic, addict, battered woman, and victim. I did those performances really well. But no one today thinks of me as those things because I do a different performance today. I stopped being any of those things by performing differently. I chose not to be true to who I was. By changing my behavior, I changed who I was. Some changes were completely conscious. I stopped drinking by consciously not drinking. I did a lot of different performances over the years of not drinking. Having lived over half my life sober, I now perform as someone who simply doesn't drink. The people around me, including those who knew me over 30 years ago, do not relate to me as an alcoholic, really. The point I'm hoping to make is that I changed my performance, which changed who I am, and it also changed my environment. It changed the way people around me perceive me and interact with me. We are generally willing to just be unconscious about our life performances. We develop an identity as a particular kind of person, someone who does certain things and fears certain things. We go along performing that identity without giving it much thought. At the same time, we are really easily victimized by our workplace, our relationships, by Congress, banks, and taxes. We feel that we don't have a choice about how we perform, so we stop being creative. Let me be really clear here. I am very aware that some people have more privilege and power. I am not saying that we can do anything we want. I am saying that we can choose how we perform in the circumstances we face. How we perform will have an impact on those circumstances. As someone who has performed the victim role more times than I would care to count, I know that lack of power is not the same thing as being a victim. I know that even when we feel powerless in the face of power, we don't have to perform as victims. Imagine what we can do when we have power. Imagine what we can do in those spaces in which we create our own environment instead of having it imposed on us. At UUMAN, we have created an environment. Any of us could stay home and read spiritual books, watch the Dalai Lama on YouTube, meditate, be with nature. We could choose to do any of those things, but we choose to come here to be together. We aren't here because we expect some great mystical truth to be revealed. It might have been if Maria were speaking, but it's not going to happen. We're here because this is an environment that we call community. As individuals, we perform as part of the community. What is most fascinating to me is that within the community, we have the opportunity to grow as individuals while at the same time helping create the environment in which we and others grow. It is so easy to think of our environment, especially shared environment, as something that happens to us. We are not encouraged to think of the world as something that we have helped create. And sometimes we disavow the creation, preferring to take no responsibility for it. But UUMAN gives us such an opportunity to do something different. We can look for ways to contribute to our environment. We can create conscious performances as individuals, and by so doing, create a conscious, vibrant community. So often at UUMAN, I am filled with gratitude for the many ways people give. One Wednesday evening, I drove up and found Kelly Callan fussing with one of the yellow chrysanthemums out in front. She told me that one of them was not doing well, so she was checking on them on her way home from work. When the program council began the new worship year, Dave Krober, then new to UUMAN, offered to help facilitate the process of setting priorities. He helped plan the meetings and established himself as someone who does what he says he will do. Those are just two examples of the ways in which we can perform as members of UUMAN, developing as individuals and building our community. I have seen countless such activities: Mike driving the lawnmower, Rosie and the Brew Crew setting up coffee, Elizabeth recruiting volunteers for religious exploration, Miriam and the board organizing the rest of us, the choir lifting us on wings of song. I could spend this entire time acknowledging people who keep this church alive and growing. The point is that they are creating this community through their performance. As they do, we relate to them as loving, responsible, giving people, and they are fed by our gratitude. They are strengthened in their sense of themselves as people who are able to affect their environment. Powerful people. I know many of the people who create this human environment, and I'm pretty sure that some of them would say, if asked, that they are not particularly powerful people. Kelly or Miriam or Mike didn't start out by saying, I'm a powerful person, I'd better use my power for good and do something to help UUMAN. They perform as shapers and builders of this community, and through that activity, become powerful. There are a number of people who, over the years, have created and to continue to create covenant groups or classes that provide UUMAN with the opportunity for spiritual growth. Members of UUMAN have identified a path in which they are interested and have taken responsibility for creating a space in which they and fellow travelers are able to explore. Starting next week, we will begin incorporating a short element in the service. Volunteers will talk about the many opportunities to contribute and build this community. It kind of blows my mind when I think deeply about UUMAN. UUMAN is totally fabricated by the individuals here who have, together, built this community. People moved this church from a basement to a suite in a business park to fellowship hall to this beautiful sanctuary. Members of UUMAN created our community covenant. We created this physical structure and the culture of how we come together in it. We did this. What is behind the mask of UUMAN? Nothing and everything. UUMAN is what we create it to be through our individual performances with each other. We can make it what we want. We can decide who we want to be here, and each decision we make will change the environment. Each of us has that much power. As the environment changes, all of us at UUMAN change. We are constantly creating and changing here through our performances as members of UUMAN. I invite you to make your performance conscious, supportive, and mindful of our covenant. We created all this, and we can continue to create UUMAN every day.
Let's flip to this book now, and we're going to do hymn 1014. Y'all can stand.
Just a reminder that this was originally called Standing on the Side of Love, and due to inclusivity, they changed it to Answering the Call of Love. So each time you see Standing on the Side of Love, you can go ahead because we are answering the call of love.
Nurture our spirit, strive for justice, transform the world. This is our mission, and we fulfill this mission with our commitment of time, energy, and resources. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. Our 50/50 recipient for October is the UUA Disaster Relief Fund, which is designated to assist congregations affected by events such as Hurricane Ian, which has devastated communities both in Southwest Florida and on the South Carolina coast. So we are now going to receive our offering either by the passing of the basket, or you can give online using the Givelify app. For the work of this congregation, which is weaving the tapestry of love in our lives, we give thanks. And now please join me as we extinguish our chalice for the day. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Together, we can build a place in which we are free to travel our spiritual paths, loving ourselves and each other. Together, we create transformation. May it be so.